maximize every opportunity so that you can become legendary.
What adjustments can you make right now to make yourself 1%
Your
better?
only goal is to be the best version of you.
Mr. Steven Jaggers, how are you, man? Welcome to Becoming Legendary.
What's up, brother? I've been waiting to have this conversation, and we had some tech issues for the past 15 minutes, but we made it work. So we are here now.
Yes, beautiful. Thanks for carving out this time, man. It means a lot to me and means a lot to our listeners as well.
Yeah, I'm honored. Honor's mine.
So I'm going to start off with allowing you the opportunity. Some people like this and some people don't like this. So you can choose to dive away from this question, or you can dive right into it. It's your choice.
All right.
So for the listeners who don't know who Steven Jaggers is and what you are all about, so I'll give you the platform here just to explain who you are, man, what you do.
Okay, so I might spin this one a little bit here.
That's fair. That's fair.
I am, Steven Jaggers is the name that I've been given by my parents. And I look at myself as a verb, if you will. I'm a process. I'm changing all the time. And there really is, change is the only thing that is certain, and everything is changing. And therefore, I do not believe in the concept of nouns, as in that I am one thing that will always be the same thing. And I am a process. So I'm not Steven, but I am Stevening, and I'm moving through the world as a process and changing. And hopefully I'm changing, changing for the better. But that being said, my background and my life experience is that my family that birthed me, I watched them with loving eyes and eyes that came into the world with a purpose and just a keen awareness, I would say. But I watched them as they struggled with lots of drug addiction and mental health issues. And, I'm an only child. They were addicted to hard street drugs before they had me, and probably while they had me. Wow. And they switched their life around when I was about 4 or 5, and moved here to Arizona to start a new life. And I just watched them switch from hard street drugs to pharmaceutical medication, and I watched them struggle with anxiety and depression and a lot of things that I knew from a young age were just not how life is. And that led me to really wanting to understand what makes people tick. I've always been very physically orientated as well, sports, and always been an athlete. And so I came out of high school, and I wanted to study addiction psychology, and then also physical therapy. I couldn't decide if I wanted to go like the body route, or I wanted to go the mind route and understand the mind, or understand the body. But I just really wanted to understand what makes people tick. And I ended up dropping out of college. I couldn't really pay attention to books, learning from books. It just was not my thing. And I was fucking around too. I was young.
Yeah, I get it.
But I dropped out, and I found this school that taught body work, massage therapy, neuromuscular therapy, a lot of energetic body work as well too, life coaching, holistic nutrition. It was like a Hogwarts school for the modern holistic arts, if you will.
Dope. Give them a shout out. What school was it?
Yeah, Southwest Institute of Healing Arts.
Dude, that's where I went too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Incredible. Right here in our backyard.
Absolutely.
And so I was a student there for a while. I ended up taking almost every class they could offer me, and it quickly became an assistant teacher, and then became an instructor. And I was teaching kinesiology and anatomy and energetic anatomy and different types of body work there for a while, and really just was so fascinated by learning like applicable body techniques and really understanding how the body holds trauma
Yes.
specifically. And trauma, we could just look at stress or blockage or whatever it is, how the body stores that and how it does affect our mind, and how deeply interconnected the mind and body are. And with that, as I was kind of going to school there and also, became an instructor there, I was experimenting with some psychedelics as well at the time, some plant medicines recreationally.
Yeah.
And, had some pretty profound moments that led me to want to become a psychedelic therapist for just a brief moment in time.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I ended up working with this nonprofit organization called MAPS. Worked a couple events for them.
Sure.
And I was so interested in using psychedelics for health and wellness. And I worked an event for them in 2017, and there was a man named Stan Groff there doing a holotropic breath work workshop. And so many people were like, you have to go to that.
Yeah.
And I went to that, and it was one of the most profound experiences beyond any of the psychedelic experiences I had, the amount of release that I had in my physical body, and also the amount of clarity I had within my mind afterwards. And it was absolutely tangible, and there was no come down.
Yeah.
So, that being said, I went back to doing body work and really started to integrate breath work into body work and trauma release. And that's, kind of where I am here now. And that was a long thing that I just rambled on, but hopefully it answers what is Steven Jaggers.
It does completely, man. I've had the absolute honor to work with you, and I wanted just to dive in. I've written down a bunch of questions, but I'll start kind of here. So you're a lover of entomology, right?
Etymology.
Yes. And if the listeners don't know out there, it's the study of the history of words, or the word's origin and development through history. I've done my research on you, man.
Oh, you have, dude. Wow.
So here's the question. Like you mentioned a little bit about that in your intro. What are some of the most impactful words that you enjoy utilizing, like in your personal life, as well as the work that you do? Because I've worked with you personally a couple times. Thank you for the energy and the space that you held for me, the releases and the newfound Brian, if you will, still carries on with me today, man. So like I have some of you can look over my right shoulder to you, I think. All these little words back here, little cards or just quotes from people I've worked with. You're up there on the board, man, too. So
I'm honored, brother. Thank you so much for that.
So like, tell me what are the most impactful words that you utilize, maybe as mantras, or that you utilize in your work? Because I think that words carry such power, right? And depending on how you use the word, depending on how you phrase the word, depending on your intention behind the word, right, can
100%
can dictate where that lands.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest pieces within therapy, specifically in any type of therapy, and that I use with my clients, and I think that people should use in relationships, and I think it should be a rule that we kind of operate on. Is that getting people to define their words is so powerful, because we are communal beings. We are here to feel connected to each other, connected to the planet, connected to whatever, connection is an essential nutrient. And we use words to connect, to feel like we're on the same page. And, words are the carrier of meaning. We have put the meaning on the word, and then both of us are at that same understanding that we are using the same word. And I'll get to understanding in a little bit too.
Yeah,
but
good.
so, I could say the word love, and it could mean something completely different to you than it does to me. Or I could say the word God, that means something completely different. And, I've done this in my relationship, and even that word relationship, what does that even mean? And defining that between two humans and getting people to define their words is one of the most powerful techniques that I have used with people. And words are just so interesting. I mean, I said that we're under the same understanding. And, we think of understanding as a mental process where I am connected to you, like we have the same idea, perhaps.
Sure.
And the word understanding means to stand underneath something, and it means that you can hold that up. And you were able to fully stand underneath it, and you were able to hold it up. So just because we understand something mentally, we can read all of the books about things over and over and over again, but that doesn't mean that we've actually put it into practice and we have embodied it. So understanding is a byproduct of embodiment, and a byproduct of you have gone through it yourself and have done it. You don't understand anything until you've embodied it. You can mentally try to understand something, but you don't really know until it's experiential. And that's another reason why I had a hard time learning from books specifically.
Likewise. I can
there's so many words. I love to play off of words, and it just comes up. But even, I just did a podcast with another brother, and we were talking about making sense of things, and when we think of, that makes sense, we think of that as it makes sense to our rational mind. But sense, and to become sensitive, which I haven't even gotten into somatic release breath work is the modality that I've kind of coined. And somatic means of the body. And my mission is to connect mind and body, to change the mental health paradigm to the mind and body health paradigm. But I'll circle back to, making sense of something. And to make sense of something is to feel it. It's to feel the sensation of it. Is to be sensitive enough to pick it up. It's to be full of sensory awareness. And all of our senses have to be engaged. All of our senses between our mind and our body have to fully understand it, stand underneath it.
Exactly.
To really have something make sense for us.
Even so far as the touch, the feel, the taste, the sight, like all five senses are involved with the understanding. And it seems like to me that when I worked with you and I've seen, watched some of the videos and things that you put out, there's a deep understanding for you that you've gone through it. You've played in the dirt. You've lived in the shit, if you will. And I think that's palpable. Is there a particular like a catalyst or one moment that you can point back to that you continue to revisit that maybe allows you or gives you permission to allow for other people to give them the space to understand themselves? Because I mean that's what I felt working with you, man. I felt there was an underlying connection that we had that was not able to put into words.
Yeah, you can't put it into words. And
I could feel it though.
It doesn't make sense to the rational mind, but it makes sense to your being. And that's the thing, is that, you can only take somebody as deep as you've gone yourself. And I'll circle back to that. But, life responds to who you are being, not what you are doing.
Yes.
And who you are being is a byproduct of what's being communicated from your nervous system, what's being communicated from the electrical bubble around you. And someone else's nervous system is picking up on that before any words can be said. And it's a state of being. So there's been lots of different times in my life. And I think just going through the hard times has been the thing that has made me what I am today and why I'm passionate about the things I am today. So there's something to be said about that. I get a lot of people that come to me that have been through some very difficult shit. And I don't look at them like, oh, you've gone through difficult, like poor you, like there's not that, because I don't know what these difficult things that this person has gone through, what that's actually going to do for them, what like the catalyst that might be for them. And maybe this terrible thing happened to them that's going to get them to create something that helps everyone else who has gone through that as well. And, we are tribal beings, meaning that we want to feel like we're bringing something to the table for our community. We want to feel like we're offering something to the community. And what we can offer a lot of the time is the shit that we've gone through, the traumas, the stressors, the shit that we've gone through, that we've overcome. Those are the things that we can offer because we have understood it. We have stood underneath it, and we've found the new adaptive pattern. And as humans, our evolutionary function is to find a new adaptive patterns to survive. Yeah. And that's the thing, is that like difficult experiences, like life altering traumas, stressors, those are the things that kill us, but also those are the things that help us grow the most, because at an evolutionary standpoint, we are trying to find new adaptive patterns. And at first we find new adaptive patterns for ourselves. And then something happens terribly. We try to find the new adaptive pattern to it. What's the way, how can I relate to this? And then we do that for ourselves. And then we end up sharing it with our community, and we evolve as a whole. And this is going on a collective spectrum as well too, which we could get into. But going back to, the session with me and you, and the felt sense is that we have become such a mental culture. Like the mind is our king, and we think about everything. Like we have forgot that we are fucking animals. We are animals, and we are a biological system that needs nature and needs certain biological things to function. We've become so technologically advanced and so of the mind that we've kind of labeled the body as foul. And there is more intelligence within your body than your mind could ever even fathom. You are repairing yourself on a cellular level every day. You are digesting your food. There's so many autonomic systems. You're secreting hormones. You're healing yourself. You're healing yourself every day, and you don't have to think about that. The mind is like, if we were we just don't even comprehend the level of intelligence that's going on in our body. And when I am working with somebody, I try to tune into that level of intelligence. Life knows what it's doing. Everything in the world is growing, and they are overcoming different stressors and patterns. And life is striving for growth all of the time.
All the time. And
when I am, just in a place in my nervous system, and you come, and we connect, and the place of my nervous system is operating from life knows how to take care of itself. There's an innate intelligence that's so much smarter coursing through your body than my mind could ever imagine. And when you relate to people at that point, instead of seeing somebody as, we live in a fix-it culture. Yeah. We live in a fix-it culture, and meaning that when we try to fix somebody, that is telling them that they are broken.
Yeah. You're exactly right, man. There's a lot you just said right there.
I went in, dude. I'm sorry.
Dude, no, that's amazing. That's amazing. There's a big piece I wanted to hold on to there and circle back and revisit. There's we spend 99% of our time locked inside of a box, insulated inside of our house, inside of our car, away from like the natural energies of Earth, away from anything that, I mean, we live by the thermostat, right? If it's not set at 72 degrees 100% of the time, we're freaking out. And if it's not fragile human beings. And so the most profound thing that I've done in my life is put myself in uncomfortable situations. Whether that be training with cold water, whether that be breath work, whether that be like somatic breath release work with you, that was an uncomfortable situation, right? But I mean, but those type of opportunities give you the ability to recognize that, you know what, you can fix your own shit. You can fix your own self as long on a cellular level, if you're open to the possibility of that happening. And the one thing that I wanted to dive in from what you said is like, you give people the possibility, or hold that space for them, that they have the ability to heal themselves. You're essentially not, I don't want to say you're not doing anything, because that's not the right way to put it, but you're not pushing or pulling or against their innate wantingness to come back to homeostasis. You're giving that space to allow all of the pushing and pulling and the coming and the going to work itself out, knowing that homeostasis is just around the corner. It's less of the mind, like you were saying, and more of the physical body. The physical body is a profound vessel, right? That I agree with you. We've been taken away from that through our culture, through stories, through habits, whatever. So what I'm trying to ask is there a way that you can define holding space? Because what you're doing is not, it's people, that's like a buzzword in the spiritual community. Holding space. So like,
I've defined it, if you want me to do that.
Please. Heck yes.
Yeah. And that's when you come into, any of my trainings, that is the first thing that we go over, because that is so important. And it's a concept, a term that is bastardized.
100%.
It's like we were saying, words of the carry meaning. There's a lot of barnacles attached to that one. And so holding space is, I actually have it in my like I could pull up my worksheet, but let me just riff on it for a second.
Yeah.
Holding space is the ability to fully experience the present moment and not being reactively involved, but responsible. I'll say that one more time.
Please.
Holding space is having cultivated, I'm going to say a little different actually. Holding space is having cultivated enough inner stillness that I can fully experience the present moment and not be reactive, but be responsible. So first of all, having cultivated enough inner stillness. And I think that is a byproduct of knowing who I am and knowing what is other. So many people, we have so many people that are, proclaimed empaths or very sensitive people, and there are people that are very fragile. But I've said enough, and I'm a very sensitive person. I'm sensitive, like I have sensory awareness, and also sensitive emotionally. And I have set enough boundaries. Like boundaries are your best friend if you're someone that's sensitive.
100%.
And also doing hard shit, which I want to get back to that. But having cultivated enough inner stillness to know myself and to know what is other, so that I can fully experience the present moment and not fully experience from my mind where I'm intellectually thinking about what's going on. I can fully experience and take in through all of my senses what's going on in the present moment, and not being reactive, but being response able. My ability to respond. There's some etymology there. But being reactive. So let's talk about the difference between being reactive and response able. So reactivity is operating from an unconscious state. Something happens, you are reacting. Someone comes to you, you are thinking that they're broken. You know, you're coming from the mindset that they are broken. It's reactivity is the fix it mentality. Is that, you know, and I've been there, and as a man, it's really easy to get into the fix it mentality. We want to fix everything. You know, my girlfriend comes in and she's bitching about something, and I'm just like, oh, let me like, what can I do? I want to fix the issue. And it's like, sometimes she just needs to express, and it does, like, and now I just need to hold space for her.
There you go.
It doesn't have to make sense to my rational mind. But not being reactive, but being responsible. So being responsible versus being reactive is that my ability to respond in the present moment is a byproduct of how much inner stillness I have. So my inner stillness is honoring the innate intelligence of life. That's what's being communicated from my being. And then when something happens, I have the ability to respond in the corresponding way, and not being charged or having my unconscious shit that's spilling in, and allowing someone to express and whatever's coming up. I have the ability to respond in whatever corresponding way that energy wants to move. And I've cultivated enough sensitivity through that, you know, and reactivity is a byproduct of stress. You know, the fix it mentality, you are putting stress on somebody. You know, you are doing the opposite of holding space. If I start getting into my own story, you know, like, and I don't think, if you can remember, like when we were doing a session, I'm not telling you anything about myself. No. You know, I don't say any of my stories. I don't do anything. I'm 100% for you and honoring the innate intelligence of your life, that you know exactly what you're doing. You know, your mind probably doesn't know what you're doing, but your body is on board.
That's it.
And you know exactly what you need to do to release. And so, you know, stress, pressure, that fix it mentality, I'm actually putting more stress onto you.
Yeah.
You know, I'm subconsciously telling your system that it's broken, that something needs to be forced back into place. And so stress, trauma, all of these things, they are outside pressures that are onto you, you know, and it's not, you know, trauma and stress are not the actual thing that's happening to you, but it's the response. It's what's happening inside of you. And every one of us has a different capacity for that, which I'll get into as well. But stress is pressure, you know, and reactivity is pressure. And if I were to put pressure on you, how do you get rid of the pressure? You need to the pressure. You have to find ways to express. Yes. And expression is the key to life. You know, we are in an expression vessel. Some of the most stressed out people in our world have found beautiful ways to channel that into different expressions, such as music, such as art, such as businesses that have helped a lot of fucking people. And that has come at a byproduct of stress, but they found a way to express it. And so if you don't express, then you end up suppressing. When you suppress, you become depressed and repressed until you push it down until it starts to manifest as a physical sort of dis-ease of energy running through your body. And so when I am holding space, which we just went over the definition, I am cultivating an area of space where I'm honoring the innate intelligence of your life so that it can express however it needs to, however it wants to. And when I do somatic work, somatic means of the body. And so a lot of the expressions that come through are what the body has needed to do, but we've not allowed them to do that. We forgot that we are animals. We become so mind oriented where it's like, no, sit down, shut up. You can't express like that. You know, it's not okay to feel. And so I just cultivate this space, and the breath is obviously the driving force, but it allows someone to express. And that expression that physical expression, whatever it needs, if it's yelling, if it's crying, if it's screaming, if it's laughing, if it's like feeling complete bliss,
Yeah.
whatever that expression is, that has wanted to come up because it's been suppressed for a long time. And when it comes up, that is the signal from the nervous system to the body and the mind that it can relax. Most of us have not been able to express anything, so we're carrying it, and it's literally eating away at our energetic system, our nervous system. I just talked a lot, so
Dude, thanks, man. It's beautiful to hear you talk about this stuff, because I got it bits and pieces when we worked together, and for you to elaborate, I'm holding space for you now, man.
yeah, you're holding the container, man. That's
Yeah,
what it is.
that's
And
what it is.
that's the biggest thing, is that
Yeah.
people have to feel safe, you know, as an animal, and safety is not a mentally safe thing, because a lot of us, you know, we're not having to fight off bears and shit, you know, we're physically safe. I'm in my box room with, you know, my thermostat at 70 something degrees.
Exactly.
And I'm safe, but people need to feel safe that they're not going to be judged.
They do.
They need to, you know, we are, as human systems, human animals, our how we respond to things starts on the animal level. So it's instinctual. It's instincts first, emotions second, and then only after that do we start to create a story around it. So if something were to happen, like, and your first thing would be an instinct. You would choose to, you know, run. You would choose to fight it. You would choose to whatever, you know, fuck it, whatever you wanted to do, you know, whatever that instinctual thing is. And then from that point, you would feel an emotion around it. You would feel scared. You would feel fear. You would feel whatever you felt. Then you'd have and only lastly, after we have that instinctual thing that goes on, that emotion, do we start to create the story around it in the mind. And those stories are what we tell ourselves about ourselves and what we tell ourselves about the world. And that creates the lens that we're looking through. But when something happens, we in our culture have worked with the stories so much, and that's not where the response is actually happening. It's happening at an instinctual level and an emotional level, and it doesn't have to make sense to the mind. So just being able to get those physical discharges and those emotional discharges frees people up to then create beautiful stories about themselves. Because when the animal inside of us is wounded, it skews us to creating dark stories about ourselves and about the world.
That serves the woundedness, that serves the less than, rather than the story that serves the higher being, if you will.
That serves the whatever your system chose to respond with instinctually. Maybe it was something that you didn't want to do, and you know, you start to create stories around, I'm a terrible person, you know, and so it lies in a lot of the shit that we're moving through. It lies within our body and our nervous system and our emotional selves, and we can work with the story after we get a lot of that stuff out.
100%. I want to revisit something that you said. So you mentioned about holding space for your girlfriend, and one of the biggest teachers of my life has been my wife, and she's and so with the wifey, with Danielle is her real name, that she was given. So with her, one of the biggest exercises that I've found that helps me to hold space is to think about, not worry, think about eye contact, and think about and allowing her, because like you said something that really resonated with me, and probably a lot of the people that are listening out there as well too, is that sometimes what the woman is saying to the man, like in a partnership, is not comprehensible to the rational mind. So then the rational mind wants to push and pull and judge and comment. So I've found that little override, a little like eject button from that system is simply just to watch her eyes. and to you can read the body language, of course, that's part of it, but as the saying goes, the eyes are a window into the soul, so you can it almost as if it bypasses, for me, the judgment piece, the commenting piece, and it allows Danielle just to express herself any way that she needs to or wants to. And what I've noticed is that a lot of the expression comes through the physical body.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily paying attention to the body language, but I can see I'm making like arm movements now. You can see like how the body wants to get rid of what she says. So the rational words, the words that are coming out of her mind or out of her mouth, sometimes don't even make sense to me, but I can feel and read the body language, feel the energy, and that without commenting or judging, without even opening my mouth. Right. And that's the biggest piece that I found working with you, is that there were very few words that were said in like an hour and 20-30 minute session. But there was exchanges that were happening that I feel like we've lost in this world. So it's like, I'm looking forward to the day we play pickleball or basketball together one day, man. That's gonna be super.
Let's go
rad.
This evening, man. If you're free.
Fuck, man, I might have to make that happen. So, but what I'm trying to say is, like, when you hang out with people, when you're around your clients, is there? You said you try to look at them from a cellular level, right?
Yeah.
So is there a technique or an override that you use to help you get to that space, or has that just been through practice?
Yeah. So are you asking specifically in relationship?
Yeah, for sure. Men and women, whatever, friends, girlfriends.
It's so different between, like, and that's where boundaries have to come in, because it's different between client versus girlfriend versus family, and the more that you are connected with that person, the more difficult it becomes to actually hold space for them. Because there's already perceptions and past experiences and all of these memories that you have. And those things are created in the space around you. Those are created in the space. Those are like the painting on the wall, the life that you guys have lived together so far. And you can always, I think as humans, we are storytellers. Like, we are creating stories around everything. I mean, this microphone, this shirt, all the stuff that's in front of us has been created because people have been able to tell stories. But it's, and this is the thing, like, you will get triggered the most in relationship. You will get triggered the most from family, because you can't actually do like relationship work unless you're in a relationship. I've been single before, and I've been like, oh man, I'm so enlightened, and I just, I'm feeling, my ego's feeling really just in alignment.
Yes.
And then you get in a relationship, and it's like, holy shit, I did not even see those parts of myself. And a lot of the times, the triggers, the defense systems that come up in relationship are a lot of the times defense systems that we've learned at a younger age as well too, with our family and with our parents. And the only time we can do that is when we are actually in it, because it's an embodied experience. It's not something you can mentally try to make sense of, or you can't mentally, you can't just mentally understand. You have to be in it at the time. And so, to answer your question, like, I have done a lot of hard things, I would say, and hard or stressful or traumatic. Those are all words that are subjective. So what's hard to me might not be hard to you, and that's with everybody. What's stressful to me might not be stressful to you based on your capacity and based on your kind of default setting of how you've come into this world, and then also based on your capacity to carry it. And that's where a lot of us have become very fragile. We've become very fragile physically, and also very fragile on a mental, emotional level as well too. So that's why, I think doing hard physical stuff
Yeah.
will really build your capacity to hold space, hold load,
Yeah.
and then having those difficult conversations, those emotionally taxing conversations, and not being reactive. But
That's
the only way you can like learn to hold space is to do it and to
exactly.
and to
Get yourself in
continue
there.
doing it.
Yeah.
And I've worked with lots of people, and I can continue to refine my skill within that. And that's the only, like, it takes 10,000 hours for mastery,
Mastery.
and that's
Yeah.
and that, like, some people are just naturally good at that. But you may not see a change in my body, but it's definitely a change in the felt sense of when you start to come around in my space. And that's the biggest thing. It is a felt sense. It's a felt sense when you're with your girlfriend, and it's a felt sense when you're with your family or when you're with your clients.
Yeah.
I kind of got a little sidetracked there, but yeah, does that make sense?
It does. It does. And in the work that I do, I'm the manager at a place called Optimize in Tempe. A little shout out there. So come and visit us. We're just opened a brand new shop, but a center, excuse me. But one of the things that works well with me when holding space, or holding space for someone else, is to you'll be amazed at what the lack of reaction to what they're saying or doing or commenting, what that invokes in the other person. So no matter how dramatic or whatever the story, whatever weight the story carries behind it, like for example, if someone's in the ice cold bath, right, and they're having like a for lack of a better word, a freak out scenario, where they can't catch their breath, they want to eject. If you can just stand there and not react to that situation, to them reacting, and come from rather a place of right action instead of always reacting to people, places, and things in your life, like that non-reaction gives them permission to turn down the dial of the reaction that they're having. In other words, a lot of times people react because they get a reaction back from the person or thing that they're around. So it's almost as if you're rewriting the story, like in that very moment for them, because their old patterns of reacting to something and then getting a reaction upon the reaction or because of the reaction tends to dwindle and tends to drift away. And then it becomes, you can sense that talking about the ice bath specifically, you can sense that they then assume a responsibility subconsciously that gives them permission to be in that uncomfortable space, right? So it's not as if like you have to do anything at all. You just have to hold. You have to be a like what could be possible. You have to represent what could be possible for them, and with the non-reaction piece, that is so powerful. I came home from the session with you, and I called my wife and blah blah blah, and I said, but it was the weirdest thing. He never reacted to anything that was happening. I was acting like I was having a temper tantrum in there, and he was not reacting. And so that gave one permission for the temper tantrum to work itself out, and then also understand that the temper tantrum, that's an old story that I used to get reactions to. I used to get me given like a piece of candy to shut the F up, like, and so that whole scenario has helped to rewrite stories for myself, stories for people that I work with. I think there's so much value in shutting your mouth and just letting whatever needs to unravel. There's so much.
Shutting your mouth, and then also giving people permission, because it's people need permission to express whatever they need to express. And it's from our youth, a lot of the time it's been, no, shut up, don't do that. Like a baby, you could look at a baby or a child, and they come out of they come out clean, without any filters, without any past programming. Something happens to them, they start crying. They start shaking. They start, throwing a temper tantrum. And that temper tantrum is the physical thing that they needed to do to get that energy out of their
Wow.
body
That's
and
it.
out of their mind. And so, that, going through life and having people say, sit down in a chair and shut up, and you're not allowed to do that. And you shouldn't cry, or even anything that people are telling you that you shouldn't do. I mean, obviously there's safety aspects of it, and we have to have some sort of filters, but those we're in this really interesting time period because our bodies are evolutionarily designed in a specific way, and that way is hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years old, and we're still operating on that on a biological level, yet we're traversing this new territory where we have technology and all of these new things, Instagram and social media and all of these things, and we don't really know the effect that it has on our body. So people need to have permission to fucking go nuts if they need to, and have safe spaces for them to do that, because
Exactly.
that's the way for their body to discharge that energy. If not, they hold on to it,
Yeah.
and then eventually they fucking blow up on their wife or
Yeah.
their kids.
Yeah.
As humans, we only have a certain capacity, and you could think of us as kind of like a memory card.
Sure.
And we go through life and we start to store things on our memory card. We store past experiences, we store our patterns and all of these things. And eventually, our memory card becomes quite full, and our capacity to create new patterns and to actually show up how we want to show up in the world, it becomes very small. And a lot of the stressors, the things that people have told you about you, the stuff that you've told about yourself, the physical and emotional traumas that you've gone through, those are and remember, those aren't the things that are happening to you. Those are what's happening inside of you. So all of those defense systems start to fill up that memory card, and then your capacity is so small, so you can't handle a lot of stuff. And when something does happen, you start to operate off those defense systems. So, and those defense systems are deeply embedded within the nervous system. You're not thinking about in your mind, like, I'm going to blow up on my girlfriend. It's a feeling inside, and then it's bubbling up. And then the last thing you do is you say something terrible, or what, you say something.
Sure. Yeah.
So that feeling inside is a lack of having capacity. And that's what I really try to help people, is creating space, de-armoring a lot of those defense system patterns on a body level, on a nervous system level, to give them more space and capacity to show up how they actually want to in the world.
That is a dope fucking analogy, man. I love that. I'm thinking of like a little SD card, like
exactly.
a little, that is so profound, man. That really makes a lot of sense to me. So how do you reset your SD card? How do you clear space off of that? We've mentioned stillness. We've mentioned, well, movement has always been a part of your life. But what other practices do you have to help fill your cup? Because that's another thing I noticed too, man. There was no lacking of anything. You were just giving from you were giving from your overflow, right? Which is how I try to operate. I think everyone has their own, who's in this sort of spirituality, this conscious community, if you will. I don't want to take words away from you. How do you fill your cup, man?
How do I fill my cup? I think it's changing all the time.
Yeah.
I have to be aware of how it's changing. I have cultivated enough inner stillness and inner awareness. All of these practices, everything that we do in like the health and wellness sphere, they're all self-inquiry practices. They're all like, how am I actually feeling? Like meditation, yoga, to practice yoga is to yoke with yourself, is to feel connected to what am I actually feeling. And we are full spectrum beings, meaning that we are designed to feel the full spectrum. And based on my self inquiry, like I have to actually tune into where I'm at right now. What from that point, then I can actually start to prescribe myself different tools, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe I've been playing a ton of pickleball and that's been my like energetic outlet,
Okay.
my competitive outlet. Maybe it's time that I need to do some like more yin yoga or some FRC or
Beautiful.
like
Yeah.
some,
Yeah.
you know, any of those. And most, I would say most all of my practices that fill my cup are things around moving my body.
Yeah.
I would say also playing music is a big one. It's all the things that fill my cup up are ways in which I can express. And so cold plunging is absolutely one thing
Mm.
that I love to do. I love to work out. I love to do the hard things because it kind of mentally and physically tests me.
Yeah.
And then I can, you know, I broaden my capacity to hold space with that. And you know, getting in nature is really important. You know, I have only lived back here in Phoenix for a little less than a year. You know,
Mm.
before that I was in Sedona, and then I was in Hawaii and
Yeah.
Oregon, and places with a lot of nature. And I think that that was absolutely essential for that period of time for me, to really just tune into how life moves, how it operates, and standing that. And after my life sitting in community, you know, community is a
Community.
huge
Yeah.
essential nutrient for me as well too. That's an essential nutrient, but you have to know where you're at.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. You have to have some sort of self inquiry test to say, where am I at? Have I been too, like, have I been around people too much?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it's time for me to like go back in the lab and spend some time alone. Or have I been doing too much yoga? Maybe I'm hypermobile and I actually
Can
need to
relate
build
to
some
that.
strength, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So it's a byproduct of where I'm at the moment in time.
That's dope. You mentioned meditation. So we have a little, we're developing a little, I don't want to give away a secret or a little, reveal too much, but we're doing every guest that we have on, we like to ask, like, what does your meditation practice look like? Do you have a morning routine? Do you have a practice that you go to every day in terms of the stillness piece?
Yeah, in terms of the stillness piece, I think that has changed for me quite a bit. I went through a period of time, I would say probably 3 or 4 years, where I was meditating every morning,
Mm.
and then I would meditate before I went to sleep, and I actually had a kind of a lucid dreaming practice, if you will,
Interesting.
and that was really just it was quite an awareness practice, if you will, and
Yeah.
I love that, and I eventually kind of fell out of it, and now I catch myself, you know, doing more breath work specifically that leads me into meditation and stillness. Um, I have, yeah, I think I would say meditation is something that I'm ready to delve back into a lot, but it's been a huge piece for me
Mm.
throughout uh, my time. I'm definitely an extremist. Like I think if I'm
Yeah.
going all in, I'm going
Yeah.
all in on something.
I feel you with that.
When I, you know, moved to Sedona, I went all in on my inner work, on myself, on being still. Now I'm in Phoenix. I have, you know, I took a lot of time to like read books and podcasts and take in so much information through my younger years. Right now, I'm really trying to create, and there's a driving force behind me that is to push the pause button on consuming things.
Mm.
And right now, I'm really having to just let it all just come out of me, express,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
create from that place. So,
That's rad.
um, yeah, I didn't really answer your question. Sorry.
Uh, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into the meditation piece because I'm going to nail this down for you. When you were meditating, okay, so
Mhm.
when you had that meditation practice, I can look at you from the outside and see the stillness, see the eyes closed or open. There's open eye meditations too out there, but what's happening? What's happening between your two ears? That's really what I'm after. Is there
Mm.
is there
It
I'm not gonna.
changes.
I'm not gonna project. I want you to fill in the blank. Yeah.
It changes, yeah. So I think when you first start, a lot of the times it's like the computer needs to just process and it needs to kind of defrag. So when you first get into it, it's just a lot of just thoughts coming through. Thoughts are just coming through, and your ability not to like kind of grab onto a thought, but just kind of let it come through and pass through. We as a physical body, as our nervous system, we are antennas, and based on our capacity and our design and the positions that we're in, and also the state of our nervous system, that will tune the antenna to what thoughts we're picking up. So at first, maybe there's just a lot of thoughts in your space that you haven't really organized, so those need to just come through first and just flow through. After those flow through, you start to, find these gaps in between the thoughts. Yeah. And the more you do it, the more you have those gaps of just complete stillness in between those thoughts. And from that place within the stillness, I'm just going into body sensations and just really pulling all my energy from my mind back into my body and occupying every little piece of my body. And I think that's a huge piece, because like a lot of people, when they meditate, or there's this addiction to ascending in a way, and like going up and out, in light, or whatever it is, ascension, if you will. I think it's actually about like ascension, and bringing your awareness back into your body. So the felt sensations are from what is going on in my body. And then from there, I was getting into a place where I started to create this kind of like, just artistic place within my mind where I could start to visualize things and visualize myself doing things. And what does it feel like to do that on all the different senses?
That's awesome.
And I feel like that's a huge piece within manifestation, if you will, is to be able to see it, feel it, hear it, taste it, smell it, through all of your senses, and not just think about it.
When I was playing competitive golf, I was seeing a sports psychologist for a while, and one of the one of the exercises he had me do, and I still try to do this today in some of my meditations, are just like you were saying, is that he would have me play a round of golf in my, like in the whatever the course I was playing the next day. He would have me play the round in my mind, and with every shot. But it was more, it wasn't necessarily about, he didn't want me to think about where the shot would go, but he wanted me to think about how the shot felt. Where was my breath at? What was the wind doing? What was were the birds chirping? Like all of the surround, all the five senses type of thing. The outcome of the golf shot was not the importance.
Exactly.
The really, really important piece was feeling the sensations inside your physical body and around you, right? Everything, taking in everything that was going to lead you to being the next day present, calm, collected, trusting in the motor skills that you had cultivated time and time again from golf swing after golf swing after golf swing. And that practice in and of itself, you nailed the piece for me, man, because that's what I wasn't looking for anything, but that's how my meditation has turned into as well. It's turned into like tapping into the visualization piece and feeling like wondering what the next steps of my life are going to be. Not so much wondering, but having the sensations in my body sort of.
What is it going to feel like?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, my mission in this world is to, change the mental health paradigm, and the health paradigm to helping us remember that it's about mind-body health, and specifically that we are body-centered beings first. And I think that, when a lot of people come to me and they want clarity around their like purpose or their life mission, or, or maybe it's around creating something in their life, and it's not about what it's going to look like mentally. Anytime you want to like create your purpose, and this is something that everyone can really benefit from, is that when you are figuring out your purpose, which to figure out something is to shape it, to literally figure it out as you go.
Yeah.
It's not something that you have all figured out. It's play on words there, but it is more about how is it going to feel. What is it going to feel like when you get there? What does it feel like on the journey? And when it's a state of feeling, meaning what is, I say your nervous system, but you could just say your being. It's a state of feeling when you get there. And that's so much more attainable, and it's so much more of a barometer for our internal compass, because life is short and life is long as well. And we go through twists and turns, and things change, and the outside world looks so much different all the time, that if we were to try to attach to a specific image of having a specific house and car and wife and all of these things, or whatever the purpose is, you will not know unless you've attuned your internal compass to a state of feeling. And the felt sense inside of your body is way fucking more intelligent than your mind could ever imagine.
That's it. Trust your intuition, trust your gut.
Yeah, whatever word you want to put on it. People say, trust your heart, trust your gut, trust your intuition. All of those things are different areas of yourself. And the more that you can be in touch with all of those things, when people come to making a decision, you can always tell if the decision is coming from the mind or if it's coming from the body, and if it's coming from the gut or the heart. And how that works is that if someone asks you something, or you're trying to make a decision around some hard life thing, does the answer kind of loop in circles? Meaning, is it like, okay, if this happens, then I'll go there, and then these people will think this of me, and then this is going to happen, and then maybe my parents won't like me, or it's like you will see kind of these loops. When you need to make a decision, it's either a yes or a no, and it's a
fuck
felt
yes
sense.
or no. Yeah,
it's either a fuck yes or a no.
Yeah,
and that barometer, or that inner compass, it speaks softly. Well, it speaks very loud if you're sensitive enough to it, but it speaks in either yes or no, and it speaks right in the moment.
I've used this quote before, and I'm going to drop it again. A guy by the name of Aubrey Marcus, who and he says this. He said, I took his Go For Your Win course back when he first developed it, like the first run of it. And he said something very profound. He said, when you're trying to make a decision, right? If you can listen to the whispers of your heart, as opposed to the yelling or the screaming from your brain, then that's really going to guide you to the place that you need to go. Because you're right, the heart whispers. Right. There's a correlation to the whisper. Behind the whisper, there's also a felt sense that I feel. That's for me personally. Everyone's different, right? But that quote reminded me of exactly what you were saying.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always a knowing, that it's the things that we want, the patterns that we want to embody, how we want to show up in the world. A lot of those things are our default setting. It's for sure. It's our soul, and it's who we are. And it's about figuring out what's in the way and getting rid of that, peeling back the layers.
Yes.
Because like you said, the heart always knows, the body always knows. And it's about peeling back the stories, peeling back the traumas, peeling back the defense systems, peeling back all the shit that's been put on you and you put on yourself, and stripping it back to that, that full capacity memory card that is your soul, that is able to express and use all of its energy to the things that you want to bring to the world.
The full capacity memory card of your soul. It's fucking awesome, dude. That's really rad. All right, dude. I got one more question for you. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Yeah, let's roll.
So what has more of an impact on your life? The things you've said yes to or the things you've said no to?
Ooh, that is a tough question because, hindsight's always 2020.
True. Facts.
And it's a lot easier to look back on things. I would say that your yes has no value until you've really dialed in your no. There's a lot of things that I've said no to protect myself, to protect what I want to be into the world. I was at one point I was going to go actually work for Onnit, and I was going to move to Austin and work for Onnit as an employee, and I ended up saying no to it. A lot of my friends were like, "What the fuck? Why are you not going? Like, that's Onnit. It's rad, And there was just this inner feeling that I was like, no.
Wow.
And there was all the things inside or my mind going like, oh, you're missing out, and like all the FOMO and all that shit, but there was a feeling inside where I had to say no to it. And it ended up giving me the time and the space to delve further into myself and develop myself. And now, I'm a colleague of theirs, a friend. I'm seen as an equal, not an employee.
That's dope.
And that's, and I followed my own path, instead of, working for someone else and following their, thing. So it really, it was huge, it was huge. And I've said no to, and that's the thing, for your ability to hold space is that you have to say no, because your no is literally the outside of that whole space. And it has to be a no around that whole space. You have to hold space for yourself. You have to hold a container for yourself. Those are your boundaries. All of this has to be no. And no meaning, okay, what am I going to let in? And what is not mine? Who is self and who is other? So that no absolutely protects you, so that you have the capacity to say yes to what you want to. You say yes to everything. It takes up your capacity. So you have to say no to so many different things until you get that full body feeling that is a yes. And just like I said, we only have so much capacity, and we can only say yes to so much. So what we do say yes to has to be a full fuck yes. Everything else is a no.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, brother. This has been great, man.
This has been dope. So I want to give a quick shout out for you. Somatic release breathwork, right, on your website. You're having, there's going to be a couple more trainings in Phoenix. So this year, I think you have one more left or two more.
Yeah, I only have one more that's on the schedule right now for Phoenix, and it's coming up really soon. It's on September 9th through the 12th. It seems like that's kind of a hard weekend for people to make that one. Sometimes timing is kind of weird for in-person events, but they've all sold out really quickly. That's amazing. This one still has some spots. So, you can, srbreathwork.com. Yeah. I'll send them the links. You can connect with me on Instagram. It's Jaggers JR. I'll give them the link for that. And I've run these somatic release breathwork trainings are for practitioners, coaches, psychologists, health professionals that are already working with people in a certain capacity, but want to have another tool to really, really create impactful change in people's lives.
I cannot thank you enough for this time. I consider you a mentor, a friend, a brother, and I just want to say that I love you, man. From my heart to your heart, thank you for this time.
Yeah, brother, I love you so much. It's been absolutely a pleasure dropping in with you and sharing this conversation. And that's what I love to do. This fills my cup, brother. So thank you.
Thank you, man. You have a good rest of your night, dude. We'll be in touch soon, sooner than later. I promise you.
Yeah. We'll talk soon, brother.
Thanks, Steven.